Hi there. I hope everybody can hear me. I'm having a little technical difficulty today. I think it's the weather. We've had a big snowstorm and sometimes our internet goes in and out. Last night we lost power twice for 15 minutes or so each time. And so our internet has been wacky today. So I hope it hangs in there with us for this penny heart to heart. Today I want to talk to you about my newest writing, Put Down Your Mental Red Pen. Hi, Lori. And I want to talk to you about why I wrote it. If you have not read it, I always put the link above this Facebook Live, so hopefully you can check that out if you haven't read it yet. I want to talk to you about it because it's something that I think is really important to all of us, about how we have this mental red pen in our head. And I remember, not 20 or 28 or even in the next couple decades, but I am old enough to remember a time when I was in grade school that everything was corrected with the red pen by the teacher, the big circles, and the grades were marked with red pens, and if it was a bad grade, it had a huge circle around it. And I remember those check marks and feeling judged. And maybe I couldn't put that word to it, but that's what it was. And maybe back then is when we learned how to judge ourselves and judge others. Now, sometimes judging is a good thing. I mean, we have to make good grades. We have to do well in school. We have to do well in certain things. And so there are some judgments that need to be made in life. But so often we judge ourselves and everyone. And Lori says, oh, you shared it with your daughter. Oh, that's wonderful. I love it when people read my writings or my posts and share them with others, because that means it meant enough to you to share with somebody else. So I love that. I always say, whatever I teach, take it out into the world and teach somebody else, because that's my whole mission, is to help people. I want it to be spread. I want it to be taught to others. So, and it's fun when I hear from someone that says, my mom shared that with me, or a friend sent you my way, or if I'm referred for speaking. I love that, because that means people are talking about me in a good way, I hope, judging me in a good way. Anyway, back to the writing, your mental red pen. We've all learned this through our life, and over the years we learn how to judge. I think when we're teeny tiny and little kids and playing in the sandbox, we don't know. We don't know how to judge each other because we don't know we're supposed to, or that hasn't been ingrained in our mind yet. But back when I was in elementary school, I still remember those red marks on my paper. And I love to write, but spelling is not my forte. I am a terrible speller. So sometimes you will see typos and things and misspellings, and I am more worried about getting the content to you and the thoughts in my mind than if I missed a comma or there's a word spelled wrong or a typo. So sometimes it is just my rush to get it out to you. But I will be the first to admit I am a terrible speller. And so I enjoyed a lot of those red marks growing up and in school, and began to judge myself. See, I still say it, I'm a terrible speller. I should switch that and say I'm a wonderful speller, and maybe my mind would lock into being a better speller. But we learn at a very young age how to judge, and we start judging everything. If you think about how everything is measured in our world as a form of judgment. Even the weather. I told you our weather is cold and we had a big snowstorm, and so things are wacky. We measure the weather by how hard the wind is blowing, how much snow we're going to get, how much moisture we need or don't need. The temperature, we measure everything as a judgment call, and we have this place in our mind what we consider good weather. So if it's not in that line of what we consider good, we judge it in a negative way. We judge others by the clothes they wear, the house they live in, what kind of car they drive, what kind of job they have, how their kids behave. We judge everything in our mind, and sometimes, most of the time, it's very quick judgments. passes through our mind and we don't even cognitively realize we're doing it. Every time we ourselves step on the bathroom scale or look in the mirror, we're judging ourselves. I do this all the time. It's what last week or maybe the week before, I talked about self-love and how we need to stop judging ourselves and learn to love ourselves the way we are right now. And I think we need to do that for others too, for everyone in our world. We need to stop judging ourselves and stop judging others and measuring the two and comparing ourselves with others, because that's where the judgment starts. I came up with this phrase several years ago. In fact, I wrote this writing a couple years ago, and once in a while I pull one from my little box of history and rewrite it because I think it's so important, and rerun it because I think it's so important. And I came up with this phrase, isn't that interesting? Instead of making a judgment that something is good or bad, or saying something negative, or saying that's a failure, what if we just say, isn't that interesting? When we look at how other people are acting, when we look at how other people are living their life, when we step on that bathroom scale and it's either up or down, or we look in the mirror and we think, oh, there's more wrinkles, or whatever it is that we are judging, what if we say, isn't that interesting? I was supposed to drive a little bit of a drive today and do a radio interview, which obviously got canceled because of the storm. And so it's postponed. But instead of being angry or mad or frustrated or disappointed, if you can just say when things like that in our life happen, isn't that interesting? That there's a storm and the roads aren't so good to drive on. And so my plans for the day have been changed. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting when I stepped on the scale today that it was up or down? Isn't that interesting that that person chose to do that in their life? And whether it's a good choice or a bad choice, it's not ours to judge. Isn't that interesting that that happened? It's hard to do in the beginning. It's really hard to step back and not make these instant snap judgments that we make about ourselves and others. It's hard to get that sentence ingrained in your mind. But if you can do it for one day, just do it for one day, and don't judge anything today, and just say, isn't that interesting? And say it out loud. Say it out loud. You will be surprised the people in your life will notice you saying it, and at first they'll look at you like, what is interesting about that? But if you share it with them and teach them and explain to them what you're doing, if you can make it through one day, maybe you can make it through 2, and then 3, and then pretty soon maybe we can stop judging. We can stop judging other people. And here's a great one. Sorry, I think I just bumped my camera. Here's a great one, and I included this in my writing. What if it became feedback and not failure? When we look at something and say, isn't that interesting? We start thinking about why is that interesting and analyzing it just a little bit, and it becomes feedback for us to think about and not failure. So if you step on the scale and it doesn't read what you want it to read, and you say, isn't that interesting? And you start thinking about it, and feedback comes into your mind about, I wonder what caused that. Isn't that interesting? But it's not failure. Or the red marks on my schoolwork from all of my spelling errors when I was young. Isn't that interesting? And maybe I should study more. Maybe I should figure out how to sound out words in a different way than I was taught when I was little. And it becomes feedback and not failure. So that is why I wrote, put down your mental red pen. Stop judging everyone. And we can feel it too. When you walk into a room and people look at you and you know they're judging you. If you are not dressed like the crowd, maybe everybody is wearing suits and dresses and you came very casually, or vice versa. or whatever it is when you walk into a meeting or a room and you feel judged, or if you stand up to say something that doesn't necessarily meet with what everybody's expectations are and you feel judged. We can feel it. But remember, in my teachings, we get what we give. So if we stop judging others, we will stop being judged. That's the way life works. So it's all in our self-control and how we live our life and what we get back in return. So let's practice that today. See if you can do it for one day and just say, isn't that interesting? When you watch this video of Penny Hunt heart to heart saying, stop judging, and you can sit back and say, isn't that interesting? Instead of judging me for telling you not to judge. You see, it's kind of a game. You can make it into a game. I hope that you have just a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful week. This is Monday, so you have a big, fresh, shiny week to make just your own and to live the way you want to live and to share what you want to have in return. So try not to judge this week, starting with yourself. No self-judgment, no judgment of others, and just observe your week and say, isn't that interesting? Thank you so much for watching. This has been Penny Heart to Heart, and I'm Penny Hunt. Have a great day.